found friends. I found sports.
I found my passion.
I found family.
I found my calling. I found a place to call home. Discover what you can find at Marietta by visiting marietta.edu today.
Coming up today on NewsCenter 15, Jeff Sessions resigns as the Attorney General of President Trump.
And we'll have a recap on some major election races around the nation.
We've got these stories and more. NewsCenter 15 starts now.
Good afternoon. You're watching WCMO TV on Channel 15. I'm Riley Wall.
And I'm Jessica Hill.
Topping our news this afternoon. The man who will serve at least temporarily as the nation's top law enforcement official is a relatively inexperienced Republican Party loyalist from Iowa who has called for limiting Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. Matthew G. Whitaker will become the nation's acting Attorney General following the forced resignation of Jeff Sessions. President Donald Trump announced the appointment, saying that a permanent attorney general will be nominated later. The former federal prosecutor served as Sessions' chief of staff for 1 year. Critics worry that Whitaker may be unlikely or unwilling to defend the Department of Justice's independence against political interference by the White House, given his history of partisanship and loyalty to Trump. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said Wednesday that Whitaker should recuse himself from overseeing the Mueller investigation, given his previous public comments that appeared to exhibit hostility toward the inquiry.
Democrats have regained control of the House from President Donald Trump's Republican Party in the midterm elections, powered by a suburban revolt that has threatened what's left of the president's governing agenda, but the GOP added to its Senate edge and prevailed in some key races for governor Tuesday, beating back the potential of big Democrat gains across the board. The blue wave that some had feared from Election Day never fully materialized. The new Democratic House majority will end the Republican dominance in Washington for the final 2 years of Trump's first term, with major questions looming about healthcare, immigration, and government spending.
Well, we're seeing those chilly fall temperatures back in full force.
Jared Ruffin has our first look at the weather.
Well, thank you guys. So basically, as we're going into this week or going into today, it's going to feel, it's like the high is going to be, well, there we go. Sorry. It's going to be 48 and the low is going to be 40. And so it's going to feel like it's 42. So as you see, it's sweater weather today. It's going to be nice and cold, chilly. Everyone's going to go outside and want to have hot chocolate. There's going to be a slight amount of wind coming out. And as we see, the dew point 62, it's going to feel like 42 and the humidity 63. So as I said earlier, make sure everyone's wearing cold pants, sweaters, mittens. It's going to be a cold weather, so we're going to go right back to the desk.
The White House says it has suspended the press pass of CNN White House correspondent Jim Acosta. The suspension comes after a heated confrontation Wednesday between Acosta and President Donald Trump during a news conference. They began sparring after Acosta asked Trump about the caravan of migrants heading from Latin America to the southern U.S. border. When Acosta tried to follow up with another question, Trump said, "That's enough," and a White House aide unsuccessfully tried to grab the microphone from Acosta. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders has released a statement criticizing Acosta of what he did during the incident. It marks another moment in the continuing hostility between Trump and the press.
And Florida added 1.4 million possible voters to the rolls when it passed Amendment 4, a measure restoring the voting rights of felons who have served their sentences, but whether those people register to vote and which political party they ultimately support remains to be seen. Studies have shown disenfranchisement tends to take more votes from Democratic candidates. Restoration of voting rights for felons in Florida has traditionally been something that Democrats have pushed for and Republicans have resisted. But in today's topsy-turvy political climate, it is unclear what will happen when felons who qualify are able to register to vote on January 8th.
When WCMO returns, we'll have a look back at some of Washington County's most important elections.
We'll be right back.
I never chew tobacco.
I don't drink much.
Never smoked a cigarette in my life.
HPV. Isn't that about cervical cancer?
What does that have to do with oral cancer?
HPV? Didn't know that.
Marietta City's income tax increase, marketed as a fire and streets levy, passed Tuesday with a margin of about 12%. The income tax issue will raise Marietta's current 1.7% income tax to 1.85%, with the additional income to go solely to streets paving funding and fire equipment. Last year, a similar increase failed by 2/3 of the vote for an increase from 1.7% to 2.2%. In addition, 3 levies in communities around Washington County were approved by voters. In Belpre, voters passed a measure that will allow Kroger to operate as a state-licensed liquor agency. In the Muskingum East Precinct, residents approved Sunday mixed drink and wine sales for a store in the township. And in Watertown Township, a $2 million renewal levy for ambulance service and/or emergency medical service was approved by voters.
U.S. Representative Bill Johnson won a 5th term in office Tuesday, defeating Democrat challenger Shauna Roberts of Belmont County. Johnson won around 70% of the vote in the 6th district. In addition, Washington County will continue to be represented by Republicans in Columbus for the next 2 years. GOP candidates in House Districts 94 and 95 won handily in Tuesday's election. Incumbent Republican Jay Edwards won a 2nd term representing District 94 and the contest to take District 95 after the mandatory term-limited retirement of Marietta's Andy Thompson went to Carroll County teacher Don Jones, a Republican.
Marietta attorney John Triplett will take up a judgeship in the Washington County Court of Common Pleas after being elected to a 6-year term Tuesday night. Triplett ran against Shoshana Brooker, a Fleming attorney who has been a county magistrate for the past 5 years. Our own Jared Ruffin got to speak with him Tuesday night.
Here with
John Triplett.
John Triplett. Okay, so we're out here at the Armory, and it seems like there's a lot of people here. Everyone's really excited. So are you excited going into this?
I'm very excited. I'm excited to be in this race. I'm excited to be here at the Armory. I'm a veteran of the United States Army. You might have guessed that from the hat. And so it's from my perspective, it's real special to be here in the Armory. I'm glad the city Marietta has this facility available.
Well, thank you so much for your service. What's the most important thing about this race to you personally?
Doing the right thing. Doing the right thing.
Okay. I can agree with that. I mean, I think that this race has had there's been a lot going on in Ohio. And you going to college here and you hear about it on campus. And so if you do win, like what do you think, what are your first steps and what are you going to do?
First step for me is to get myself familiar with my staff. I mean, that's kind of a basic when you take over a new job. But I've been a trial lawyer for 34 years, so it's just a different side of the bench for me. Issue 1 will have a big impact on our community and on our state. If it passes, it's going to be a tough way to go for a lot of people. So that's going to be important. Judge Kareni is starting a drug court the first of the year, and I'm very excited for that. I hope that we can find the funding to start a second drug court and possibly even include veterans in part of that, because like myself, Judge Kareni is also a veteran.
Okay. So we were right at the courthouse and we saw that a lot of people are voting no on issue 1. And what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I agree with them. I spent 25% of my advertising budget in the last 2 weeks voting no on issue 1. You'll see a big vote no on issue 1 on one of my billboards outside of town. It's the worst thing I've seen on the ballot in 34 years. People have to make their own decisions, but anyone that educates themselves should be afraid.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for your time.
All right, thanks.
Triplet won the election according to final unofficial results, about 60% to Brooker's 40%. Coming up, who won the major races in Ohio's statewide elections?
We'll have this story and more after the break.
And after this, we're going to have our 5-day forecast. Is it going to be a wet weekend or a dry weekend? We don't know yet, but I'll tell you because I know.
Lee Major, did you get your flu vaccine yet? Make that your mission for today.
Did you say mission? Let's do this. With the flu season coming up, we all have to help protect ourselves by getting the flu vaccine. If you're over 65 like me, you gotta even be more careful. Look out!
Our immune system may not be as strong as it used to be, so we have to do everything we can to keep the flu from catching up with us.
Educating yourself about your flu vaccine options is important. It's also really easy. So ask about your vaccine options, because if you're a tough guy like me, you may need a tough vaccine.
The flu can aggravate other conditions, so make it your mission to get the right flu shot for your age.
Lee, is that you? Did you complete your mission?
Oh, you mean the flu shot? No sweat. Visit the National Council on Aging at ncoa.org/flu to learn more about vaccine options for people 65 and older.
Republican Attorney General Mike DeWine defeated Obama-era Consumer Protection Chief Richard Cordray in the race for Ohio governor on Tuesday, leading a GOP sweep of statewide non-judicial offices. DeWine was bolstered by strong support across rural Ohio, as Cordray did best in the state's urban Democratic strongholds. Republican Auditor Dave Yost defeated former U.S. Attorney Steve Dettelbach for Attorney General. Republican State Senator Frank LaRose took Secretary of State over Democratic State Representative Kathleen Clyde. Republican State Rep Keith Faber became auditor over former U.S. Rep Zach Space, and GOP State Rep Robert Sprague defeated Democrat Rob Richardson for treasurer. Democrats were buoyed by 3 wins Tuesday. Incumbent U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown defeated Republican U.S. Representative Jim Renacci, and 2 Democratic candidates for Ohio Supreme Court, Michael Donnelly and Melody Stewart, won their races.
Ohioans voted no on the statewide issue on Tuesday. Under 64% of the state voted against it. If adopted, the amendment would have reduced sentences for incarcerated people by up to 25%, pending participation in rehabilitation, work, or educational programming, except those in prison for murder, rape, or child molestation. It also would have made the obtaining possession or any drugs such as fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine, LSD, and other controlled substances only a misdemeanor. The issue would have instead directed funding towards rehabilitation and probation services rather than jail time.
A portion of an Ohio interstate road has been renamed for 2 police officers who were killed in a shooting earlier this year. Officers Anthony Morelli and Eric Joring, who died in the line of duty February 10th, are now honored by the portion of I-270 in Westerville bearing their names. WBNS TV reports the Ohio Department of Transportation installed the signs this week. Morelli and Joring were shot while responding to a 911 hang-up call at a townhome in Westerville. Lots of movie news today, from an introduction to a new villain.
Here's George Riffle with the Hollywood Minute.
Yippee-ki-yay, the original Die Hard, the action movie considered by some the best Christmas movie ever, is blasting back into the big screen. Bruce Willis and company will play in more than 700 U.S. theaters on Sunday, November 11th on Wednesday, November 14th. Cats and dogs wait to see a veterinarian, or is he a shrink, in the first trailer for The Secret Life of Pets 2, opening next June. The 2016 original debuted with more than $1 million and wound up making $87 million worldwide. A second-generation villain steps into the spotlight. MGM has unveiled this introduction of Florian Munteanu, who co-stars in Creed 2 as Victor Drago, son of infamous Rocky foe Ivan Drago. He's a 6'4" boxer, actor, and model, nicknamed Big Nasty, perfect for squaring off with Michael B. Jordan's Adonis Creed. The bell rings for Creed 2, November 21st. In Hollywood, I'm George Riffle.
Thank you, George. Now we'll head over to Jared for a look at the weather.
How's the look out there, Jared?
Well, as you can see, it's going to be nice and cold. If we look on the eastern seaboard, basically the temperature is going to be lowering down to the 40s. Florida got the unlucky side, so they're still going to be hot. But where we are down in Marietta, it's going to be nice and cold. So we enjoy cold weather, and it's sweater weather now. And high temperatures, no, we can good. We can switch back to as basically you can see that we're not going to be having much rain. Most of it is out west as it's moving over, but it is going to be a little bit of cloudy. As you can see, there's some cloud coverage that's moving over up north, but for right now we're going to be safe. It's just going to be cold. Basically, as I said earlier, as we said, there's going to be some cloud coverage. You can see out west to where Columbus is, that it's going to be nice and cloudy, but Lord, we're going to have a little bit of cloud coverage, but it won't be as bad, and it should blow over soon. As we go into the 5-week forecast, today on Thursday, it's going to be a high of 48 and a low of 40. So just basically sweater weather. Tomorrow, we're going to see a lot of rain, the high of 47 and a low of 30, so make sure you wear your umbrellas. Wear your umbrellas. Saturday, it's going to be a high of 36 and a low of 23. That's the day I suggest that everyone wears their coldest attire possible. You're going to be having sweaters, jackets, mittens, boots. It's going to be the whole thing. Sunday, high of 43 to 32, And then Monday, it's going to be nice and sunny for us as we start the week off with a high of 47, a low of 38.
Thank you, Jared. When we come back, Ethan Brown will have a look at what's going on in the world of sports.
See you in a few.
Cancer may be tough, but we are tougher. We are the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Our game-changing research has led to the belief that the cures for cancer are in our blood. We are the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Beating cancer is in our blood.
We are now back. Here's Ethan Brown with an update in the world of sports.
What's the latest, Ethan?
Well, first we're going to take a look at what's happening in the NFL. So we'll head over to Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger sat out practice on Tuesday to give his broken left index finger a rest, but he is expected to play on Thursday night when Carolina visits Heinz Field. Roethlisberger said the finger was fine after last Sunday's victory over Baltimore. The 36-year-old is on pace to top 5,000 yards passing for the first time in his career. The Steelers, who own a 5-2-1 record, have ripped off 4 straight wins to climb into first in the AFC North. They next face the surging Panthers, who own a 6-2 record. Roethlisberger expects to rely a little more heavily on the no-huddle offense, a setup in which he thrives. Now let's head over to some MLB news. The New York Yankees and CC Sabathia have finalized an $8 million one-year contract. Sabathia and New York had reached the agreement Tuesday. A 6-time All-Star and the 2007 AL Cy Young Award winner, Sabathia went 9-7 with a 3.65 ERA in 29 starts this year. He dealt with continuous knee problems over the last several seasons. Sabathia in his career, his 18 major league seasons, is 246 wins and 153 losses with a 3.70 ERA and just under 3,000 strikeouts with 2,986, including 129 and 80 in a decade with the Yankees. Moving to Cincinnati, the Reds have hired Turner Ward from the Dodgers as their hitting coach on Tuesday, their second significant addition under new manager David Bell. Cincinnati had also previously hired Derek Johnson from Milwaukee as its pitching coach. The Dodgers and Brewers both played in the NL Championship Series this season. Ward has spent the last 3 seasons as the Dodgers hitting coach. They set club records for homers, extra base hits, and slugging percentage each of the last 2 seasons. The Dodgers led the National League with 235 home runs last season. And finally, moving on to the NBA, Dwayne Wade missed Miami's game against San Antonio on Wednesday night for personal reasons. It's the first game Wade has missed this season. He's averaging 14.3 points on 45% shooting in 9 games, all of them as a reserve. The Heat were also without starting point guard Goran Dragic, out with a sore right knee, and Dion Waiters and James Johnson remain out for the unforeseeable future as they recover from surgeries. Heat center Hassan Whiteside returned to the starting lineup after sitting Monday with knee pain. That's all I have here in the world of sports. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you, Ethan. Now Jared Ruffin joins us one last time for a look at the weather.
Well, I mean, as I said earlier, it's going to be cold. We're making our way into December. The weather is going to be going down. The temperature is going to be going down. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows that it's time to break up those winter socks and break up those winter clothes because it's that time of the year, guys.
All right,
So,
thank you. Good
Riley,
to know.
Get your sweater weather on.
All right, I certainly will. Thanks for joining us on Thursday's edition of WCMO TV, Channel 15 at 12:30 and 6:30. From all of us here at the station, we wish you a great weekend.